to start something from scratch and to build it and to build something that in the space of 30 years or so is able to compete with the very best institutions in the world. It's quite an extraordinary achievement.
They just bootstrapped their way from essentially nothing to what became one of the leading medical research institutes in the world today.
It really is about how she brought people together and also created a unique environment for discovery that really is different than most places in the world.
My mother and father lived on a big farm outside of Trochu, and we went to a little one-room schoolhouse with 8 grades. My mother would always read articles to us about nutrition. So I think my mother had quite an influence. I really had wanted to take an MD degree. They didn't encourage women to go into medicine. And I thought, next to medicine, the best thing to do is to learn how to eat properly.
The chair of chemistry, O.J. Walker, came up to tap her on the shoulder at the campus dance and asked her if he would have a dance with her. And as they were dancing, I guess she learned that she had the highest grade in the chemistry exams that year, and as a woman, it made her particularly proud. From there, she moved east and began training nurses. But I think her life changed a lot when she met Lillian Fishman.
Wow, and he was handsome and tall. I married a biochemist. I wasn't interested in any other kind of a man.
Bill and Lillian had, even though late in their careers, had made a great discovery, what became known today as cancer stem cells.
It's a discovery that a protein that's normally associated with pregnancy in women was in fact present in cancer cells. And what that did is it drive the connection between developmental biology and cancer biology, which we now know as developmental oncology.
Bill was facing mandatory retirement at his university on the East Coast, and they just weren't ready to retire. They were fired up and ready to keep moving and try to fight cancer.
They pack up the family car. They drive across country. They get to San Francisco, come on down the coast. When they came to San Diego, and in particular to La Jolla, they said, this is it. They rented a 2-bedroom apartment. They set their laboratory up in 1 bedroom.
That's what I understand, is that they basically ran their science out of a room in an apartment.
She was actually doing research in rented apartment that she had.
I know it's a bunch of baloney. No, it had been a building that had been vacated. It had been a scientific building.
I guess when you have somebody like that accomplishes great things, these stories do build up around it, you know, and I think, from my perspective, it adds to the mystique and the accomplishment.
Our mission is to understand the fundamental mechanisms that cause disease and to use that knowledge to devise the new prototype therapies of tomorrow. Sanford-Burnham has been ranked among the top medical research institutes in the world. Just last year, for example, the Institute for Scientific Information reported that we ranked #1 among all organizations of all kinds for citations per publication. And this was in the fields of biology and biochemistry for the decade 1999 to 2009.
The success of this institution today was built on the culture that they brought 34 years ago. Scientists of all kinds were doing their science in a bowl. They didn't want other people to see what they were doing. They didn't want people to steal their secrets. This was a mentality in that world in those days. They were the opposite of that.
It was a reaction against all these institutions he'd worked with, and all the chain of the bureaucracies at universities. And he felt that it just put a damper on the research and on people's freedom of thought. And I believed if you fostered bright young people, we couldn't afford to get a famous scientist come and work with us with a name. We started out with bright young people. And by gosh, most of them turned out to be wonderful. Some of them are still at our place.
Lillian always made this place feel like family. And in fact, we often refer to her as the Institute Bubby, taken from the Yiddish, which is grandmother.
I never cared about a lot of money. And I just feel so fulfilled to think, I just sit and feel what a fortunate woman I've been. And I have so many marvelous memories of the University of Alberta.